All right. Welcome to this week's edition of Vishal and Company. Here we are in front of you, minus two people today. Taku Indachena is feeling under the weather, and our favorite Maddie is working on set today. So it'll just be us three. Lucky you guys. And what we're here to talk about is the bond market blues and the economic slowdown and oddly enough, lesbian AI, but we'll get to that at some point down the road. Let's kick it all off with Vishal. Vishal, fire away, my friend.
All right, thanks, Galen. I'm really looking forward to that lesbian AI part. I want
Yes, so am I.
to. Well, in terms of the stock markets, it was just one of those odd weeks. Coming back now from July 4th, and it's funny because I seems like I say that every week now, but it really is just strange market times. But choppy week. These are the 5 day daily candles. So this price action here, Monday, nothing really happened. Tuesday, we had a drop. Wednesday, we popped up. Thursday, we had a huge drop. And now Friday, we're gaining. And the SPY has actually breaking into new record highs right now. So there you go. That's with the S&P 500. The NASDAQ potentially can also do the same by the end of today because we still have about 2 hours to go in the market in the trading day. So the NASDAQ can also be making new highs potentially. And the Dow, look at that. The Dow, which was one of the weaker markets this week, is now actually climbing back up and retesting previous highs. So we might even see the Dow make new highs. The weakest, however, was the Russell 2000. And you've probably heard a lot of these Wall Street bet stocks, AMC, GME, BlackBerry, a lot of them were getting smashed, but some relief today. But this could just be what people call a dead cat bounce. So we'll watch the Russell, the small cap stocks, and the big story really had to do with the bond market, and it sort of ties in actually with small cap. So let's take a look at the U.S. 10-year yield. You can see here yields are drifting. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but remember when we were talking about higher yields and how that was impacting the markets and how people were scared? Well, broke back below 1.50%, and now we are trading at 1.350. And again, to remember when yields are dropping, it means the price of the actual bond is rising. So people are buying bonds, which is causing interest rates and yields to drop. So the chart I like to look at is the TLT for my bond chart. And for you technical guys out there, a bit of a double bottoming pattern here. After almost a year of downtrend here. Wrote this post here about deflation, the real threat, at the beginning of this week here, and three signs for deflation I wanted to talk about here quickly. A rise in bond prices, which is what we are seeing right now. Well, today actually we dropped, but I mean the uptrend is still there on the longer term. A rise in the US dollar and a falling gold price. So, those two things I think we'll watch going forward. The dollar is it's down today by a bit, but there is still sort of this longer term double bottom pattern here that a lot of people are worried about. So we'll keep an eye out on the dollar. I know if TK was here, he'd probably have a lot to say about the dollar because I know he's a fan of the dollar. But we'll hear his thoughts perhaps next week. So
Now,
this
is
is the
is gold doing okay though? I've heard some positive, optimism that was redundant about the rise in gold prices, and people are expecting it to go past 1860 and signal some, confidence in commodities again, rather
exactly.
than ridiculous cryptocurrencies. Sorry, Joseph, I didn't.
Well, you
But
guys know
yeah,
I'm
go
a
ahead.
fan. Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of gold, Galen, and silver. You know that. Recently, the price here of gold. I mean, it's something I would like to go long, but as you can see here, and I'm on the 4 hour chart. So each of these candles here represent 4 hours of price action, and as you can see, for like basically the past 2 or 3 days, we had that breakout, but gold is having difficulty just to push higher. And I'm one of those momentum guys. So when I see a breakout, I would like that follow through to happen, quite soon, right? It shouldn't take 2 or 3 days, because it sort of indicates that there's still a lot of sellers that are holding this zone. So I do like gold longer term, but right now as a trade, it is pointing upwards, but we just don't have that momentum there. So gold right now is a bit difficult to sort of analyze on the longer term charts. I still think, long term, yeah, we do go up, but in terms of technicals, what that bond market does, which I think, I should probably mention that, but if yields do keep declining lower, that is technically positive for gold, right? Because again, gold is something that doesn't actually yield anything. So it does great in periods when interest rates and bond rates are low. So when we had interest rates rising, when bond rates, interest rates on the 10-year yield was rising, that's when gold was actually coming under some pressure here. So if this continues, if we still see money running into bonds, which causes yields to drop, that would be positive for gold. But this
now,
is sort of
in the case that we have right now, the economic situation, which is a slowdown, an increase in jobless claims over the last month.
Exactly.
Market analysts are also looking toward not necessarily inflation being the problem, but growth.
Exactly.
Not just in the short term. Some are actually worried that this might be setting a trend.
Exactly, and that I think is the key, and why we should probably be a bit cautious here and watch what the bond market and the dollar is going to tell us here. As Galen just said, jobless claims did unexpectedly rise, so this whole idea now of economic growth is sort of being stalled. People are now pricing in, well, the idea that rapid job growth seen in the first half of 2021 could now face hurdles. So this is something to watch. And yes, when money does run into bond and gold, that's generally, for safety, right? What we call the risk off environment, where you put your money into safety. So it looks like with interest rates declining, the market is now beginning to price in slower economic growth or even deflation. And I just want to throw something else out there. But the Fed, we had the Fed minutes. Everyone's always talking about inflation, and the Fed having to hike interest rates. I won't really read out this whole thing, but this was their statement that came out at the FOMC minutes on Wednesday. And what the FOMC minutes tell us is it basically has the notes of what Fed members said in last month's meeting. So if you guys remember, in last month's meeting, Powell came out saying, oh yeah, the Fed is now talking about tapering. And what we saw from the minutes was that, yes, indeed, some members are now actually considering tapering. So again, it's funny because the Fed is saying they want to hike interest rates, or they're talking about, hiking interest rates, but the bond market is actually telling us something completely different, where interest rates are actually declining. So, in my opinion, if rates are going to go higher, you wouldn't buy the bond right now, because if rates are going to go higher, the bonds that you're holding right now, yielding at this interest rate, will be worth less than the bonds that come out when there's a higher interest rate, right? So, a lot of confusion here. And I think the bond market is telling us that perhaps we might not be getting those interest rate hikes sooner than, we might get it later rather than sooner. And it might come due to economic slowdown and growth. So I think we should definitely watch the bond market going forward, and the warning signs that it is telling us. And yes, data is now coming a bit slower. Maybe fears of we might be going back into the whole pandemic side there, right?
They've got the Delta variant. There's also a Lambda variant. And the idea now that Pfizer has now put forward that you would need a booster shot, and some are even talking like down the road, waiting 12 months, and then banging you up again as a covering for everything. So even the people that had the 2 shots are going to get another one.
Yep,
This guy's got to be making bank.
Yeah, if you're technically now, if you still have 2 shots, you're still not really safe. I mean, you have the antibodies, but that's the fear, right? That's sort of the confusion here. It's like, no one really knows what the hell's going on here.
Well, they think with the booster shot, you will get 5 to 10 times the amount of antibodies in your
That's
system,
right.
and it
Yeah.
will be long term. So
Right.
5 to 10 times the amount that you already possess after the second shot, which they consider to be not relatively short term, but shorter term. This other one is supposed to be sort of like a lifetime shot.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. We'll see.
It'd be nice.
It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice. But just sticking with that, with the whole Delta and Lambda, Australia's back in lockdown. So this is
Yep.
now technically the third wave. South Africa's back in lockdown.
South Korea.
And South Korea, I was going to say the Asian nations. So a lot of
Yep.
these nations are now declaring, lockdowns, even with, vaccinations. I don't know. Right here and there, we got to take a look at to see how much of the population there is vaccinated or not. But it seems like these variants are evolving to counter that, because that's technically what they do.
Well, that's
But yeah,
exactly what
Japan
they
is
do.
now.
Yep.
Yeah,
But I
Japan
mean,
is now.
they will
taking-
also, we should be clarifying here, they mutate regardless, right? And they only mutate while they're in a human host or in a host. There we go. So
there we go.
Yeah, they're ostensibly a flu virus. They mutate a lot like the flu,
Yep.
which means that we're gonna see multiple, like honestly tens, if not hundreds, of different variants in our lifetime.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of building up enough antibodies to be able to beat the base strain. I mean, the rest of it, it's going to do its damage.
Yep. So that's adding a bit more, confusion now.
So Olympics without fans. There we go.
Yeah, Olympics without fans, because there is now a state of emergency. And if I remember, I had it. I had a link here. CNBC sort of did this as well. Yesterday, Americans will need masks indoors as U.S. heads for dangerous fall with a surge in Delta COVID cases. So they're saying here authorities in Australia, South Africa, and Asia have recently reintroduced curfews. But right now, our high vaccination rates and warm summer months is buying us some extra time. So a lot of these sort of, fear, type things. And again, the bond market is telling us that we probably are going back into lockdown sometime in the fall. The reason why I follow the bond market, and I think everyone else should do, is this is where the smart money and the big money is, right? We're talking about billions of dollars, people with maybe information. People got to realize the bond market is the largest market in the world. And a lot of the retail guys don't trade this, right? Because we don't really have enough money.
It's long term, and we don't have enough money and that kind of stuff, right? I mean, realistically, this is where the value is actually at.
Yeah. So when the bond market's moving like this, the big money is placing bets, and right now the big money is placing bets. And again, this is not going to happen next week, right? This is, as Galen said, long term. So this could be 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. But basically, they are pricing in some sort of slowdown, and maybe that's due to more lockdowns or whatever, right?
So maybe that New York City University finance professor really does have his head up his butt saying that Michael Burry should just, pack it in. I think he's right on all counts. I think the university professor should probably sign his resignation letter and leave the school.
And just as you guys remember, I think Burry was saying he is long on bonds as well. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I think we'll definitely probably be talking about this next week, depending on what the bond market does. But I'll keep you guys updated. Right now, nice uptrend. But if the bond market does close back, or TLT specifically closes back below 140, I think market's back to pricing in higher economic growth. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out of the bond market next week.
Now, there's some interesting things. Thanks, Vishal. There's some interesting things happening in the world of crypto, with the licensing, I guess you could say, of the first Canadian firm to be able to be a crypto custodian. And Joseph has all the information on that. What do you think about that, Joseph? What's going on, man?
I actually think it's the next big thing in crypto, at least up here. What we don't have right now are basically regulated, insured, and I don't know, like acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptable legal custodianship for cryptocurrency companies on the institutional level up here. I mean, if for the retail level, for you and I, for Joe Schmo, I mean, we go to exchanges, regulated or unregulated. I guess it doesn't matter. We have both. Both provide both good and bad things, and we have options. But for individual companies, they either have to go unregulated, which is just a horrible idea, for anyone involved, or go south of the border or go elsewhere. And what Mogo has done, and Vishal is good enough to actually show it on the page right now, is they started putting money into Tetra Trust Company, which is the first qualified crypto custodian. And frankly, I think they're going to be the first in a trend. I mean, we have another one coming up, which I think I mentioned at the bottom of this article, which is Brain Capital, which I've written about in the past, which is already doing business with DMG and Big Digital Assets, and they're going to be going public in the fall, and they're going to be probably that I don't know, that the second comer in what is a larger wavelength of this type of industry, which I mean, frankly, cryptocurrency is not going anywhere, despite the fact what some of my compatriots on this show seem to appreciate.
Thank you, man.
And it's frankly only going to get a little bigger. It's only probably going to get a lot bigger as more companies get involved and they need a place to put their money, and they need a way to deal with their tokenized securities like NFTs.
So this provides them the opportunity of holding their assets, as it were, as it is, I guess, in the country that they understand all the laws and regulations, right? Rather than having to hold it down south. So if something happens in the United States, all of a sudden you're buggered, even though it doesn't apply up here.
Exactly. I mean, but this particular company is completely regulated. They have insurance, which is possibly the biggest, most important thing, because no matter what happens, the biggest thing you need to worry about when it comes to cryptocurrency is, am I secure? Mm-hmm. Do I have all of the necessary security to protect my investment? I mean, on an institutional level as well, because I don't know, honestly, most hacking comes from...
Well, you don't want the owner of the company dying and sort of losing his wallet.
Well, that is definitely the Quadriga CX is definitely one of the largest concerns. But I mean, it's just smaller everyday hacking. It's like Karen accounting opening up her email from her Nigerian prince lover over in.
There's so many of them.
Suddenly they have all of her access to all of your network and all of your accounts.
That is a big thing. No, it is a big thing. And I think as we move forward, the idea of ransomware and hacking and taking over people's accounts is going to become more and more prevalent. We've long left our utilities, especially, and other institutions' networks open for attack, basically. And to be honest, it's almost impossible. If somebody wants to break in, they most likely will, right? It's just a matter of time and effort and computing resources, right? But right now,
retail crowd, there's two types of exchanges, right? Yep. Two types. Those that have been hacked and those that will be hacked.
You see,
on the institutional level, it's probably just the same.
Very true. Very true. That's very interesting. Now, then, if you are looking at this happening as legitimizing the idea of cryptocurrency in the eye of institutional investors, thus making it sort of foundational in the economy, where do you think the money is going to head in terms of which cryptocurrency is going to benefit from all of this normalization, as it were? Do you think it's going to be Bitcoin? Do you think it's going to be Dogecoin? What do you think?
In the beginning, it's probably going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum because they're the top two right now. Now, in the future, we've seen the emergence of new coins, something new makes an appearance, something, I don't know, something with a bigger yield but scales better than Bitcoin does, or maybe Hoskinson wins in the scaling battle with Buterin, and Cardano will take over for Ethereum. But for the most part, right now, the front runners are still Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Are there any up and comers that you think people should keep their eye on?
Not really. I mean, you see, there are a handful of coins which provide support. Which, if you want a nice way to bolster your DeFi, your DeFi activities and you want a secondary coin, you can start looking at some of the support coins like a Chainlink or a Polkadot, which they provide a kind of ancillary assistance to some of the effects involved in DeFi.
To you, who are some of the most exciting blockchain or cryptocurrency companies on the market today? Not necessarily cryptocurrencies themselves, but companies in the space.
Well, I like what DMG is doing. I still like what Hive is doing, and I like what Big Digital Assets is doing. DMG and Hive are both are of course miners, and Big Digital is kind of a blockchain-based company. I mean, they have an exchange. The exchange is pretty good, if not a little limited in their coin offerings. But what Big Digital does is they actually monitor the movements on the blockchain, which is a lot of the same thing that DMG Blockchain Solutions subsidiary Blockseer does as well.
Gotcha.
What they can do is, if you lose money out of it, if your wallet gets hacked or something, I don't know, you leave it on the bus or something, and someone gets through it, they can actually trace where the coin goes down the blockchain from place to place.
Interesting.
And there are a lot of interesting things going on in this space for sure, and that I think is possibly one of the most interesting.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Joseph. That was very enlightening. Personally, I think the whole thing's a piece of crap, but that's just me. Speaking of pieces of crap, I just want to bring up my favorite person in the world, who is probably the biggest ass I've ever met. No, I've never met him.
Never met him.
Wouldn't want to meet him.
Biggest
ass I've never met. And there's a lot of really big asses I've never met. Elon Musk, there he is. That fro or their hair has just got to go, man. Anyway, this guy has got to be one of the biggest liars on the planet, and he still seems to get by the SEC, his fan base, because that's basically the only people he has left. He's pretty well lost most of his sway in cryptocurrency. What I find is incredibly funny is that he's done an about shift on Bitcoin, which kind of confused me at first, because why would he try and sacrifice his company? Well, I'll tell you why. He's a narcissist. He doesn't give a shit about Tesla, really, other than it being something that makes money for him. So he's willing for them to take a beating while he holds Dogecoin, and he's personally promoting it. Now, the funny thing about Dogecoin, beyond its unlimited supply, which I don't know how that makes any sense for value,
it doesn't.
40% of Dogecoin is held in 9 wallets, 28% of them in 1 wallet. So I wonder whose wallet that is, Musk, since you're being the Doge father and trying to pump the shit out of this cryptocurrency so you can make money while your company loses it. Speaking of Tesla is getting his ass handed to him across the globe in regards to purchases and sales. Sweden, 1-for-1, the Chinese competitor, the lowball competitor on the market, beat Tesla out hands down in sales across the country when people were scrambling to be the last ones to get their government subsidy to buy the vehicles, which goes to prove that he's not necessarily impenetrable nor someone that can't be knocked off his hill. The fact that the cars are assembled poorly across the globe, and that Consumer Reports and J.D. Power found that each vehicle had 200 plus problems to each vehicle, which beats out every other vehicle on the list that was tested. This hasn't changed and won't change. And the reason why this occurs is because he's trying to build an industry and scaling it so quickly that it's nearly impossible. The idea that tech trumps everything else that exists is bogus and is only sort of flaunted by these assholes that are billionaires that can moat themselves with money, because that's basically what's going on. He's got the audacity to go to court over the Tesla purchase of Solar City, which is absolutely ridiculous because his board has already settled in an effort to not have to come off guilty. So what does that mean for him? It just means he's going to squander a $2.6 billion settlement once he gets into court, and they sort of go like, dude, you are Tesla. What are you talking about? You had control of the company. You had 28 or 22% of Solar City, plus they were all your relatives. Like, what are you thinking? And he's trying to say that somehow Solar City has made money for Tesla in the fact that Tesla has split its stock. No, that was due to investor stupidity. I'm sorry for anyone that has money in Tesla. It had nothing to do with how much money Solar City was making for the company, because it isn't. The only thing that's making money for Tesla besides Tesla, which is not really making money, is the Powerwall segment, which should be a different company as far as I'm concerned. But hey, let's let the SEC look into that. Tesla has, or Musk has recently tried to soften his public image somewhat by kowtowing to the requests that were quite legitimate, going like, you've got like 9 different houses, you live in a different world, you're a billionaire, you have no connection to reality, you're an asshole. And so he goes, no, I'm not. I'm going to sell all my belongings. Of course, he did this while he was really high. So whatever, that doesn't matter. But the fact is, he never really followed through on it until just recently when he started to get his feet pulled to the fire. And now he says he's renting a $50,000 little hut in Texas where he has his new factory, because damned if he's going to pay taxes. Like, this guy has no commitment to the community or the nation that has helped him build his company. So I don't know. Anyway, he's in Texas so he can again avoid taxes, and saying that he lives in this house. Well, guess what? Grimes and their kid that they call X, I'm sure the therapy bills are going to be huge at one point, live in Austin. And I'm pretty sure a house that is not worth $50,000. And what he fails to say in his public relations, which he is the only person to provide that for Tesla, is that he splits his time between this little hut and his home in Austin. So I'm willing to bet that he spends, 2, maybe 3 days out of the week, maybe, in this place, and the rest of the time in Austin. So he's not really living there. It's his tent outside of his factory. Let's just face it. What else about this guy? Oh, yes, SpaceX and Starlink. 50,000 subscribers was supposed to be the biggest headline ever, and yes, this company works because of that. Well, it's just like his flange catching idea. It's a load of crap. Basically, Starlink, with the investment that it requires to actually do what it needs to do to make a coverage that it needs to do, it has to have between 2 to 3% of the world's population as subscribers. That means almost 300 million people signing on to Starlink. Now, the people that would actually use Starlink or have to use Starlink don't have the $1,000 or so it takes to set up to begin with. So he's not going to get that subscribership. How is he going to pay this money off? Well, easy, because Starlink, even though it should be a completely different company, is under the shadow of SpaceX, which in itself is a complete load of crap. But you know what? It's got billions of dollars from private equity, and they're pretty sure that when they come to an IPO, we're all going to get suckered and buy in. So they're willing to just keep pouring money into it. So basically, Musk is not a genius. Musk is a man with billions of dollars at his disposal to continue to moat his ridiculous ideas, like the car handles on his vehicles, so he can actually maintain some sort of lead, which is rapidly diminishing. His ability to sell fucking tax credits have greatly decreased and will become non-existent after this next year. He's cooked his books in all sorts of ways to juice his numbers to say that he's delivering more vehicles, and I'm sure he is. For instance, the idea that he's...
Stop. Breathe.
No, I can't.
Breathe. Take a breath.
The fact that he's selling or trying to give out Cybertrucks at $100 deposit proves that he has no ability to sell these vehicles to anybody that is actually going to put down money. And basically, I'm sorry to the people that own Tesla, because I'm sure there are probably some people that are good, but the guys that own Tesla are bigger assholes than Musk himself, because they don't realize that this vehicle isn't environmentally friendly. You're holding a shit ton of lithium under your feet that nobody knows how to dispose of, and is not really a clean way of mining. So when you're looking about the fact that the gas is some sort of dirty and horrible thing that you can't use. You're just as dirty and horrible in the manufacture of this vehicle, in the shipping of it, and in the fact that nobody knows how to get rid of it. Back to Musk again. He has decided to open a tunnel, I believe, down in Florida. What an ass. And what he's doing is he's saying that this tunnel, because it's his tunnel boring company, will facilitate movement between points by ferrying people back and forth in Tesla vehicles. This is hugely uneconomical in the sense of what should be ferrying people back and forth is mass transit. So what he's doing is he's still trying to get rid of his vehicles. He's congesting traffic even worse by adding more vehicles to the road and more vehicles that nobody knows to get rid of, and vehicles that when they catch fire, which they tend to do, actually require 32,000 gallons of water to douse. And when they catch on fire or have any problem whatsoever, there's a large chance the electrical system, which operates the ability for you to exit the vehicle, will stop working. It's time that Tesla and Musk and the billionaire bullshit that we've been fed by Musk, by Zuckerberg, by Dorsey, by Bezos needs to end. Our adoration of these assholes because they've reached billionaire status, which in my opinion is a policy failure, has to end. We need to start examining these companies for what they really are, which are huge money sucks and destroyers of competition. They're not democratic. They don't allow for innovation beyond what they feel they need to do. It's time to end, kids. The stock market is ridiculously overvalued on many different aspects, but the retail investors have a huge hand in overvaluing these particular stocks, and it's time for us to give our head a shake. It's time for us to realize that value is based on performance, not hype. There, I
want to check and see if we lost our lone remaining viewer. Sorry about that, Steve. We'll get back to you.
They probably turned down the volume and made themselves a sandwich until they could figure out that I'd finished. But there you go.
I know we probably got to end soon, but we
do. I talked a lot, but go ahead.
We got to talk about the lesbian AI.
I'm sorry. Let's move on to his crazy wife. I'm sorry. Grimes, get a hold of yourself. She has decided that her next album is going to be an opera using the theme of lesbian AI. She's got a fascination for AI, and for some reason it is related to communism, which I have no idea how that actually works out. But this is something she's put into her head. If the Canadian government has, as they've done in the past, which I'm incredibly insulted and can't believe they've done, give her a dime to develop this ridiculous idea when other artists in this country who deserve more attention on even these types of themes, which they could probably prove better than her, because I have no fucking clue what she's trying to prove with this idea. It gives her any kind of money. I'm going to raise hell. This is unbelievable. The whole family's fucked. Sorry.
I don't know, man. Lesbian AI seems a little strange. I just kind of wonder if she gets her data points from Pornhub.
Yeah, well, there you go. Like, how does this even apply? Where does this even come from? And it's just like her doing the baby music, which is like drifted into the background because she's discovered that her child doesn't like loud, abrupt sounds. Oh, really? Oh, my God.
I can't believe these headlines, man. This is actually... Oh, man.
She's a nutter. And I'm sorry to people that have mental health issues, because I'm one of them. But I believe that if you realize that you have something and you're dealing with it, you're a wonderful person for actually being strong and going for it. But people that maliciously embrace their insanity and decide to propel it forward, fuck you.
It's art, man. It's art.
There we go.
Okay,
if we didn't get cut off for that and didn't get canceled or somebody complaining, I don't know what will do that. But you know what?
Sorry about that, Steve.
We've run out of time. Yeah, Steve, and the several chipmunks that are outside throwing things at me right now for what they feel is an affront to their good nature. I want to say thank you for the listener that's still listening, and to Joseph and Vishal, which put up with my rants about Musk, even though to a certain extent it's like me throwing stones at a fucking mountain. What is it going to do? But you know what? Somebody's got to say it. So
Which is it's a highlight of my week, dude.
there you go. Well, thank you very much. Thank you all, and thank you, Joseph and Vishal. And we will bid you a fond adieu. I'm just setting up so we can actually make our exit. And everybody have a great week and a new week going ahead. Thank you very much. Got to find the camera to wave goodbye. All right, bye-bye.
See you next Friday.